Howdy and welcome everybody to this first of two videos about cleaning your bike. The first video, this one, is about cleaning just your drivetrain, and the second video to follow will be about cleaning the rest of your bike. So our drivetrains now have become high-tech, super lubricated pieces of machinery, haven't they? And we don't want to be using the same old methods we used to use, like hot soapy water, degreases and WD-40, only to be washing that solvent and the dirt on the chain back into the workings of your chain. You don't want that at all. Secondly, the high-tech lubricants we use today quite often require specific solvents to get them off, to clean them. And thirdly, we now have, of course, disc brakes. So you don't want to get any dirt or chemicals onto your disc or the brake pads themselves. So this drivetrain clean is less time consuming, uses less chemicals and leaves your chain super clean and super lubricated. And in the second video about cleaning the rest of your bike, there's also going to be quite a few brand new methods of how to preserve and protect your two-wheeled machine. There's no doubt about it, a clean bike not only looks good, but it feels good to ride as well, doesn't it? And it'll also encourage riders around you that you ride with to keep their bikes in good condition as well. And isn't that half the reason why we wax our chains? It's so clean. Not to mention, it also makes our drivetrain last longer. That's going to save you lots of money. And also it's a super lubricant, so very, very low friction. So let's say you've done a few rides in good weather conditions, and I mean it hasn't been wet. So you look at your bike and it's relatively clean, except you've noticed on the back sprockets on your cassette, it's a little bit of wax build up. And also maybe even on your jockey wheels, there's a bit of wax build up as well. And even your chain has lost its nice shininess. It's gone a little bit dull and dark grey. So you can use this drivetrain clean just to do your drivetrain, or you can use it as the first step in doing a major clean of your whole bike. And you can do this clean either outside or inside, and even on a carpeted floor, and even in a clean white shirt. Righto, so get yourself a plastic rectangular container, and it measures 230mm by 65mm by 50mm. That's about the smallest size you'll get away with, and the largest size would be 280mm by 80 by 80. Don't go any larger than that, it won't work properly. And you can usually pick this sort of container up from your local hardware store. Or sometimes you can find them with small storage containers. I found my container in the cleaning section. It's a moisture and bad smells absorber, the sort of thing you put in your fridge or a cupboard. Undo the quick link and remove your chain, and the plastic container goes here. One end of the plastic container just clears the cage where the bottom jockey wheel is. Now mark the inside of the plastic container about midway between the two jockey wheels. Your mark should be about 60mm in from the end and 5mm down from the top. With a small screwdriver or a drill bit, make a pilot hole. Then use a slightly larger size, and then a larger size again, and even larger again. The reason you do that is so that you don't crack the plastic. Now get yourself a small nut and bolt. 8mm in length is good. Can be a bit longer, but 8mm is perfect. This sort of bolt head's good. It's got an inbuilt washer and it's got a dome shaped head. So if you put it on the outside of the container, it won't catch on the spokes. Put the bolt through the hole you just drilled in the container. It doesn't matter if you have the head of the bolt on the inside or the outside. Then just put the nut on. Don't do the nut all the way out. Leave a bit of a gap so that you can see just there. Now check that you can hook the bolt onto the derailleur between the jockey wheels just like this. Now down the other end of the container on the opposite side to the bolt, make another mark, and this one will be 20mm in by 5 from the top. Poke or drill a hole at that point, and the hole doesn't have to be as big as the bolt hole on the other side. Get yourself a piece of wire or an old coat hanger and measure 17 centimeters. Thread the wire through the hole you made in the container and bend it up a bit with the pliers. Hook the container back onto your rear derailleur and measure the hanging height of the container. This is too high. You want the lip of the container to be below the teeth of the largest sprocket. So now bend the wire at 90 degrees over your chainstay. Come in a bit with the pliers, hold and bend the wire further around so that it fits loosely on the chainstay. Now you only need a small bit of an end, so cut off the excess. To protect the chainstay being scratched by the hard wire, cut a piece of fly screen spline and work it onto the wire. Other soft tubing works as well. Final check to make sure it all works properly. Fit the container on, then change your gear to the largest sprocket at the back. Give the wheel a bit of a turn and make sure that the spokes are not catching on either the bolt head or the nut, whichever is sticking out on the inside of that container. View from the top and make sure that all the sprockets are within the inner and the outer edges of the container, so that all the liquids will be caught in the container. Now, since the last re-wax, I've done 2 rides on this bike in good weather, so everything's pretty clean. But the cassette has some wax on it, as I'll show you, and also the jockey wheels, so we're going to clean them. So first of all, clip on your container. Now if you've got other bikes, make sure that the container fits them as well. Yep, even the mountain bike. Now check between the smallest sprocket and the second smallest sprocket, and on the spacer between them you might have a bit of wax build up. That's very, very common. So you need to get rid of that. The best way is something pointy to get in there, and I use a dental pick. Very, very handy. Get yourself a dental pick. So you just put it in there and spin the wheel and the wax comes off. If you leave the wax in there to build up, your chain will eventually ride on top of that wax and will skip as you put the power on. So you need to get rid of that wax between those 2 cogs. The rest in between the other spaces usually is not affected. It's between the smallest and the second smallest. Get your wax and grease remover. A spray bottle is really handy, and just spray it on. While you're there, spray a little bit on the jockey wheels. You don't need much. Now get a brush like this, or you can use a thinner one like this, but a wider one's good because it's quicker. And the bristles are fairly stiff. Then you turn the wheel backwards and put the brush on, and make sure you get all the sprockets. Clean all the sprockets. Give them a good brush. That's all you need, just a couple of rounds, I'd say about 10 spins. Then wash it off with water. These pump sprayers are really handy. And that should be nice and clean. If you find there's still some wax there, then just repeat it again. Just spray where the wax is, and then backwards and scrub again. Rinse it off, and should be done. And generally, your jockey wheels don't need cleaning. I'd say probably once every 10 or 15 rides, and then there's a bit of wax build up which attracts a bit of dirt. So other than that, you usually don't do, just clean your cassette and that's it. If there's still a bit of wax on the sprockets, don't worry about it, it'll be clean wax. 99.9% of the wax, of the dirty wax, has been removed by this process. So what's left on there will be fine anyhow, and it'll be sparkling clean sprockets now. To do your jockey wheels, use an old toothbrush and put it on the jockey wheel and just spin the jockey wheel. Give it a bit of a scrub if you want as well. Spray it off with a bit of water. and all the sludge is inside the container. Unclip the container and then you can wash it out. Don't forget to clean your brushes, they'll rinse out in water. Now if you want to clean your front chain rings, which virtually never need doing when you've got a wax transmission, just use this is a kitty litter tray, put it on the ground underneath your cranks so that when you spray it and clean it, it all drips into the tray. Get the same wax and grease remover and the same brush that you used and spray the chain rings. Spray below your bottom bracket. You don't want this stuff going in your bottom bracket bearings. So on your chain ring, just a little bit, you don't need too much. Same with the inside one. And then on the back as well. A little bit on the brush. And then just and on the small chain ring. That's all you need to do. Again, don't spray above, spray below. And on the inside, and they should be lovely and clean. For any wax build up on your front derailleur, get an old toothbrush and give it a bit of a squirt. Not too much, you don't need a lot. The wax and grease remover, give it a scrub on the inside of the inner cage and the outer cage. Literally takes 10 seconds and then wash it off with a little bit of water. So not too much chemical, not too much water. You don't want it getting in your bottom bracket area. Done. So you've cleaned your drivetrain and it's nice and shiny. But let's just say with your chain that you've only done a ride or two and it doesn't really need to re-wax yet. But you look at it and it's a bit dull, it's not shiny. It's got this dark grey stuff on the outside. So how to clean it without having to do the whole process of immersive wax? Well, you can do it, and I'll just show you one way how to get that grey off on the outside. Put an old towel on your table or your bench, and that just stops your chain from sliding around so much when you put your pressure on to clean it. You do it on the bench, number one, it'll scratch your bench and it slides around too much. So that's just to stop it moving around so much. Lay your chain nice and straight, like that, on one end. Again, get your wax and grease remover spray bottle. You can also just tip it straight on the rag from the bottle as it is. That's the one we use in Australia, Digger's brand, but any wax and grease remover will do. It's really, really cheap to use. You can also use isopropyl alcohol. It tends to be a fair bit more expensive and also evaporates quickly. It doesn't give you as much working time, but it will work. The other one is white spirits. That's also fairly cheap, but the problem with white spirits is it doesn't evaporate. And so when you're rubbing, it'll tend to find its way inside your chain. You don't want that. You want something that evaporates fairly quick. Plus, white spirits isn't water soluble. You can't wash it off. This one you can just wash off if you need to. You can wash your brushes out and things like that. So get wax and grease remover, really good stuff. Right, so now get a rag, or what I use is a sock. And you can use any old cycling sock if you want. I've got quite a few of them, because you can put it on your hand like that and you can just spray on the sock and then you can wipe from there. So you just wipe the chain like this and you can hold it like that. Go back in the other direction as well. If you want to go back and forth, you can. Now usually it will clean the outside plates but not the inner plates so much. If you want to do the inner plates as well, you can just sort of do that, but it's going to be time consuming. But anyway, if you look at the chain, all right, compare it to the bit that's not done, look at that. It's certainly doing its job much better. Now you may or may not see anything coming off on your sock. See, it looks fairly clean. That's because your wax is fairly clean, even though it looks black on your chain, dark grey. You can spray a bit on your chain if you want. helps. So it won't be perfect. So don't soak your chain in it. You don't want to get the stuff inside your chain particularly, even though it evaporates fairly quick. Won't do too much harm. But you just want to wipe the outside so it's nice and shiny. It's easy to do, really quick. Only take you like less than a couple of minutes to do. Now if you're a real cheapskate like me, you only shine one side, that's the side that faces outwards, and you leave the side that faces the inside of your bike. Just leave it as it is, dark grey if you want. If you want to do both sides you can, but most people can't see the inside part of your chain. Anyway, so if you want to do both sides, start again at this side and do the same thing. So a couple of minutes each side and you're done. Now you probably think this chain still looks a bit dirty, grubby and a bit rusty on some bits, a bit well worn. Well, this chain has done 13,000 kilometres. Now it's the original one I started doing the wax tests on the Canyon bike, and it's still going. It still hasn't reached 0.5% wear mark yet. 13,000 kilometres. So no wonder, if you look at it closely, it's got a few wear bits on it, a few little rust spots, but hey, it's still in pretty good condition, isn't it? Wonder how long it's going to last. That's fine. Just pick any old random spots. That's fine. It's not going in anywhere. So as you can see, it's still going. If you want to do your links, there you go. See it a little bit dirty there. What you can do is just spray a bit of this on the cloth. And it comes up nice and shiny, much better. Again, these links are done, 13,000 kilometres. Give them credit. Now, if you want your chain to stay shiny as long as possible, you can get chains with stainless steel outer plates. I'm trying it out on the Trifox bike, I think it is, and that's an 11SX. So Connex making an 11SX chain. It's more expensive than the 11SO, but it has the stainless steel outer plates. So if you want a chain that never shows any signs of rust on the plates, then go for stainless steel plates. If you're riding in wet conditions, don't go cleaning it with this process. Leave the wax on because it'll help protect it against corrosion. However, if it's fine weather, go ahead, keep it nice and shiny. Both these chains have been rinsed in hot water and ready to be immersed in the hot wax. One is the Connex SX, which is stainless steel, and one is the ordinary Connex. Guess which one's what? You can see this one is shinier, can't you? So that's the stainless steel one, and that's the ordinary one. Both are about the same age, but this one has no bits of rust or anything on it, and this one's got bits of rust and corrosion happening everywhere. So if you want a shiny chain all the time, go for the stainless steel SX. That's it, put your chain back on. Maybe you've re-waxed it or maybe you haven't. It doesn't matter if your chain rings or your sprockets at the back is wet, wax is waterproof anyway. Look at that, beautifully clean hands. Imagine doing this to an oiled chain. It'd just be mess everywhere and it'd take you way longer to clean your transmission. One of the huge advantages of waxing your chain is just that, the absolute cleanliness of the whole thing. And don't forget, if there's any little bits of powdery wax anywhere, like on your crankset, on your chainstay, anywhere on your rear derailleur, and you don't want it there, just a dry, soft brush and you just brush it off. This is an earlier version of the cleaning container. It was bigger and the chainstay wire hook came off the centre of the front edge rather than the outside of the container. How easy is that? It still worked okay, but the container hit the spokes, as you can hear. What's going on? There's a junk in the bottom there. I'm going to get shot Someone will say, don't tip it down the drain. Well, that's it. Now you know how to clean your waxed drivetrain, and have fun making this tray and cutting out time and effort cleaning your waxed drivetrain. So remember, this can be done either inside or outside, where you probably don't need to use your container. You can just let it drip on the ground, and you can rinse off your drivetrain with the spray hose. Wax chain, oiled chain. Why would you ever go back to oiling your chain?